We have Dr. John Friedrich Demartini here visiting Lithuania. And John, thank you very much for agreeing to do an interview with the Sales Club. That's the biggest sales community, B2B sales community in Lithuania. Now, John is number one in the world in human behavior. He's been studying that for over 46 years. Author, I think, of 100 books, and has trained a lot of salespeople, a lot of business owners through the world. And now, first time visit to Lithuania. So, John, tell me, how much do you know about sales and business development? What's your...
Well, I started my formal business around 36 years ago. Well, actually 40 years ago I started my speaking industry for pay. But about 36 years ago I started a formal business as a health professional, etc. And of course, you don't go anywhere until somebody sells something.
Exactly.
So without sales, there's no business. Business is making sure that you serve somebody and fill a need and getting a reward from that. And if you're without a sale, it doesn't happen. So if one does not master caring, because selling is caring. It's about caring about human beings. I made a statement one time that if you're impoverished, it's because you're not caring about humanity. Because if you're caring about humanity, you're doing things that help serve humanity at a fair exchange. So you and they both win.
Okay, John. And now you have a lot of people coming to your seminars. I think you have thousands coming to your seminars through the years, tens of thousands probably. And a lot of these people are either salespeople or business people or have a relation with business development. Now, when you look at those people and they come to your seminars, and I know you like to have a conversation with people, what do you think is the number one mistake people make in developing their business or doing the sales or trying to develop this? What's the number one pitfall?
Well, one of the guys that assisted me in sales was a guy named Walter Haley. And Walter Haley said something to me many years ago, long time ago. He said that to sell is not to tell. And many times people in sales want to talk about how great they are or great their company is or great their product is, great this, before establishing a need. And you have to make sure you have some sort of established need. Somebody has to have a desire for that, or you have no sale. And so talking is probably the number one thing that interferes with sales. It's asking questions and getting to know the person and finding out what their needs are and really getting to know who they are. I say selling is caring, because if you really care about somebody and you don't look down on them or look up to them, if you look up to them too much, you'll sacrifice your profits. If you look down on them, you'll assume you know what they want. If you get across from them and have an equity position, you'll have a fair exchange, you'll have a non-zero sum game, sustainable growth process. So you make sure you care about somebody by really finding out what their needs are and quit looking for a quick fix. Go for a long-term relationship. In the long run, you're going to end up with a bigger brand.
Okay, but now every business is developing, and as the company is growing, the owner can't do all the sales himself, so you're starting to get other people. And do you think there's a way somebody can determine whether a new hire, a potential salesperson for the company, is a good fit or not a good fit? Do you think there's a way to tell that?
Well, there's a number of normal standard procedures you do in the hiring process, but I found a few additional ones. I asked somebody before I've considered them, I said, if I gave you $10 million right now, or in euros, maybe 10 million euros,
okay.
And I gave it to you, and you didn't have to work, what would you do with your life? And if they aren't interested in doing something resembling what I'm about to have them do, I don't hire them.
So you're saying to ask the potential new hire,
if you had $10 million, you didn't have to work, would you actually be doing this?
Work, or will it still be in sales, selling products, developing?
So I have that kind of money. So if somebody asked me if I gave you $10 million, would you continue to do what you're doing and do what you love doing? I'd say absolutely.
You would do that.
Because now, if a person is in sales, then all the things that have been proven to work in sales, if you have a list of everything that's been proven to work when you've sold, and now you're looking for somebody else to do it, if you can see and they can see how it's going to help them fulfill what's meaningful to them, what's inspiring to them, they'll be engaged and they'll do the action. Otherwise, you're going to have to micromanage them and push them uphill trying to get them incentivized all the time.
Okay. And how do you find out if somebody is engaged or not?
You determine what they value, because nobody goes to work for the sake of a company. They go to work to fulfill their values. You find out what they value most. You find out if the action steps that have proven to work in sales, if they can see how doing those is going to help them fulfill what's valuable to them, they'll do it spontaneously, and you're going to have an engaged person. They're going to go out and do it. If they can't see how to do it, you're going to have to be pushing them, incentivizing them, and bureaucracies and everything else, and you'll be frustrated. So don't hire somebody that isn't inspired to sell what you're going to sell. And don't hire somebody that doesn't believe in that product. If you don't have absolute certainty in that product and you want to learn about the product and you want to make sure that product gets out to the world, don't hire somebody. They have to love that product and want to share that product.
Okay, well, that's a powerful screening technique to get the right salespeople. But a lot of us, we already have salespeople and we have sales teams, and sometimes those teams stop performing well. So if somebody is in that scenario where they already have a team, a sales team, and that sales team is not, doing the sales that they need to be hitting, is there something that you can advise in that scenario to get those people back, to get a little bit more inspired and kind of re-find themselves again?
Every decision a person makes is based on what they believe will give them the greatest advantage over disadvantage. If they make a sales process and talk down to somebody and get resistance and get a rejection, they're going to associate pain with sales. And if they associate enough pain with sales, more so than pleasure with sales, they're going to withdraw from it. They're going to avoid doing the things that it takes. So you have to go in there and make sure that they follow things that have proven to work, and make them have a checklist to make sure that they're doing the things that work so they have an experience. So their mind goes, hey, this is working. And so they build momentum because it's working and they gain confidence from it. But what happens is they go in there and they start talking about how great they are and how great their product is without ever establishing a need. And they end up getting resistance and objections because they haven't established needs. And this is the number one thing that makes them get pain associated with sales. I'm going to withdraw from it and then have an association that goes, I don't want to go out and do all the things I do. I don't want to be rejected. People have a fear of rejection.
What do you do in scenarios where people are afraid of certain things they need to do in order to generate leads or to make sales? For example, somebody is really feeling the fear of making the phone calls, making cold calls, which is still one of the ways.
That's because they're used to getting rejected.
Yes, and they had so much rejection and then think, I don't want to do another
but the rejection is because they haven't cared about the person.
But I think you will always get a certain level of rejection if you're going to do cold calls. So is there a way to help people deal with that fear?
Well, every day you ask yourself what worked and what didn't work. And you want to prioritize what worked and what didn't work. And build a list of the things that are proven to work and not work.
So you're saying keep track of things?
Keep track of it. If you're not metricing something, you don't really care about it. If you really care about it, you're going to find out what's working and not working. You're going to keep refining it. You're going to keep polishing it. And you're going to get masterful at it. So if you really care about the selling process, you're going to want to find out what's working and not working, and you're going to keep doing it. Because every time you do it and it's working, you build a confidence and you go in and you engage and just have fun talking to people. When you really care about people, they can sense it. If you don't, they can sense that too.
Okay. So when a company has a slump in sales, before replacing the CEO, they usually try replacing the sales director. So let's imagine that you're a new sales director coming into a company which already has salespeople, and they're not performing well. What would you advise the person does in the 60 days in their role when coming in fresh to kind of reestablish the sales?
Well, capture people in their moment of excellence. Have a meeting on a daily basis, what worked and what didn't work today, and give feedback to everybody to save them not having to reinvent the wheel. And make sure that if you can't do it as a salesperson and you can't demonstrate it, it's hard for them to. They're learning from trial and error. Give them examples with foresight and mentorship on how they're doing it, instead of making an assumption they just have to go out and do it. And make sure you get people that are really inspired to sell. I have people that want a job and they've said they've done some sales, but they get hired and they don't believe in the product. They're not caring about the customer. They're just wanting some economic return, and they're not really focused on something they want to sell. I don't want to be around somebody that doesn't want to sell the thing that you're selling, because otherwise, who'd want to buy it?
No, not even then, maybe.
Yeah.
And I know, John, sometimes what you do advise to people who are in business development and in sales is that for some reason you're advising them to get more savings for themselves and build up their wealth financially. Is there a connection between building wealth and being good in sales?
Until you value you, don't expect the people to value you. Until you invest in you, don't expect the people to invest in you. And so if you haven't sold yourself on what you're selling, don't expect other people to be sold on the sale.
So how does this help when somebody is building their own finances?
If they are building wealth, they're less volatile. They're less. If you're driving around with an empty tank on a gas tank, you're edgy, you're stressed, and you're uncertain. And you'll take whatever you can instead of being selective and prioritizing what you're selling. But by having cash reserves, you're more confident, you're more certain. You select who you want to do. You want to make sure you really meet the right people that help you get that.
Not begging for the sale.
Not begging for the sale.
Okay.
So saving money and investing money in yourself and keeping a cash cushion is essential for it. The biggest companies have cash cushions because they know that builds business.
Okay. And in every market, there's always companies which are doing really well and companies who are not doing that well. In your experience, what's the difference between a company that is selling a similar product and one is doing really well and the other one is not doing really well?
I think we just covered it. The person who's doing really well is inspired by the vision of what they're wanting to do. They have a clear vision, it's lucid, they're enthused about the product, they love the product, they love people, they care about people, they want to find out what their needs are and fill those needs. It's not just about a sale, it's about filling people's needs. And that is the one that gets the referrals and stimulates new business the most.
And what about the management? Is there differences in the management of the companies? The values of the managers?
It's the same thing. If a manager's not engaged and not inspired by it, it's going to affect the numbers. I spoke at IBM one time to 400 people at IBM, and I was amazed at how few were really inspired to be at IBM. And we got rid of some of those people. We literally got rid of them on the spot. I took out 75 people in that company out really quick. By one presentation, I got rid of them all because they were dead weights. Because they had been hired inappropriately, they were not inspired by the products, they were not doing things. And we got people that were engaged, and the company went up from that. And it had been in a slump because they were holding on to people that were not inspired.
Thank you, John. And if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you?
Well, it's simply just go to drdemartini.com. If you go on my website, you can find everything I'm doing.
Perfect. And if you go to drdemartini.com, and you can do your values online and see if you fit in sales and if that's the role you should be doing. So Dr. Demartini, thank you very much for agreeing to this talk.
Yes, thank you.
And the interview, and we hope to see you back again in Lithuania soon.
I hope so, thank you. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.